Hi people, it's me again as always, Morino Ravenberg. In this video, as you can tell from the header as always, sorry, I'm going to discuss my technique of delving into someone's mind and just reading someone's mind superficially. Check the links in the description of this video, or wait until the end screen if you want to see what I'm referring to and or talking about. I'm simply going to elaborate in detail on these techniques because for people that either copied it from me or are copying off of me or similar, or just food for thought, because some people, more than a few people, really enjoy those series of mine where I dove into the mind of people. Essentially, I'm going to simply explain the technique. I'm going to explain how it works and how the mechanisms of all of it are configured together. Because obviously I didn't explain that to people. When you read someone's mind superficially, like I explained in that video, I already explained it, so I'm not going to go into detail. I'm going to focus more on delving into people's mind. When you read someone's mind, there are two versions. When you read someone's mind, that's superficial. You're essentially picking up on their brainwave activity, like I explained in that video back then. And obviously, nothing in this world is foolproof. So this technique is also not foolproof. When you are reading someone's mind and you're picking up on their superficial thoughts, obviously their thoughts do not have to align with what they're actually doing in the material world. So you're literally hearing what they're thinking or seeing what they're thinking, but that doesn't mean that they're actually doing that or that they're engaged or embroiled in the activity that you are seeing or hearing. So that's something that you really need to keep in mind, okay? Now, for my second technique, delving into someone's mind, how it works is that you're connecting with their astral body, specifically with the deepest form of their astral body. You're connecting with a part of their astral body. That's why it works for both people that are alive as well as dead. You're connecting with the part of their astral body that doesn't die, essentially. Let's just say that's linked to their soul in a figurative sense, not literally, okay? You're connecting with the part of their psyche that stores all of their memories and events and whatnot, unbeknownst even to the person, things that even the person that you're reading or whom you're reading isn't aware of or doesn't know about or forgot due to either blockage or simply forgetting it or anything like that, okay? Any kind of mental blockage, you'll be able to view it. Now, that's how it works. That's how you delve into someone's mind. I simply call it delving into someone's mind, but in actuality, it's simply connecting with their astral body. Now, the base rule is that when you die, you're comprised out of a soul, a mental body, out of a soul, an astral body, and a physical body. The soul also likes to be called the mental body, or the soul is an intermediary. Your mental body is like an intermediary between your soul and your astral body, and or between your astral body and your material body. Don't think of it that way. Just bear in mind, keep this in mind. Soul, astral body, physical body. Now, when you die, your physical body goes. Then your astral body is next. That's what it's called. That's why this is called the second death, which is also mentioned, if I'm not mistaken, in the Bible. The Old or the New Testament, you die two times, you die twice. First, your physical body goes, your material body, severing the ties primarily with the material world, the direct ties. Then your astral body goes, okay, the same astral body that people use to walk around and do things with. And your soul is essentially left. But other than your soul, the highest part of your astral body, a part that's never discussed, honestly, because it's essentially, like I said, it's viewed as your soul. Okay, let's just say that you're pure soul. You're purely you again. If you want to connect with someone on any given plane, you still need an astral body. And your soul will automatically provide you with the highest quality, if you will, quote unquote, highest quality astral body you can think of. And that's the part that you're connecting with. That's why it works beyond death even. Because theoretically speaking, someone would say, hey, if someone's astral body also died, then how do you connect with them? How do you delve into their mind, so to speak? You're delving into the deepest part of their psyche. You're delving into that perfect astral body, if you will, or near perfect. You're delving into that which is linked to their soul. And that's why this technique is so effective, okay? You want to see everything in the world. You want to see someone's deepest and innermost thoughts and desires, even those that are unbeknownst to them. You want to see the things that someone went through in their life, if they've had multiple lives, the life that you're referring to or that you have your intentions set on. All of that can be done, okay? All of that can be done through this technique. But like I said, Father Almighty is the only one that has everything in foolproof standards. He's the only one that can do everything perfectly, obviously, because he's Almighty. But even this technique is also not foolproof. Now, I already explained the technique and its mechanisms, how it works. Exclusions to this technique are that when someone is so heavily mentally compromised, just say someone that's outright insane, as in someone that is literally mentally disturbed, okay, to the point where we all know that someone that is mentally disturbed, there is a severe disturbance between. Also check the link in the description as well as the end screen for my explanation, my elaborate on mental illness, the esoteric elaboration on mental illness, as well as the attached PDF file therein. Simply put, we all know, metaphorically speaking at least, or at least some of us know, that people that are mentally disturbed, the bond between their mind, their astral body, their mind/astral body, and their by the way, your mind is like a part of a subsection of your astral body. They're not like one and the same. Just an FYI. So your astral body and your physical body, something severely disturbed there, okay? Hence the name being mentally disturbed. Or someone that's otherwise mentally compromised, okay? The technique, you really need to be experienced, otherwise you're just going to jump to conclusions. I'm going to give you an example. Say for example, you've got someone that, let's just say, use as an example a guy's name that's Paul. Paul is he's on a flight, he catches a flight from one country to another, and he flies over South America. Just an example. His plane crashes over the rainforest and he's the only survivor. Now, Paul is basically the average person and he can't handle such a disaster overcoming him. He's all alone in the rainforest. He's the only survivor. He doesn't know what to do. He's going to become deranged and he's essentially going to lose it, quote unquote lose it. He's going to become severely mentally afflicted. He's going to spiral into depression. His entire health immediately just plummets. And he essentially just wants to go back to his cozy life where he's sitting at home, reading a book, drinking a cup of coffee, eating marshmallows. And he reaches that critical point, to the point where he just completely breaks down. And he essentially just breaks down and he's just like, I'm sitting home, I'm eating my marshmallow, drinking my little book, reading my little book, drinking my cup of coffee. Yeah. The thing is that Paul's mind became so fractured, his astral body, because he's unable to cope with the horrific event that took place, or the offense that took place, to the point where he essentially escapes reality, so he doesn't have to deal with it. And he essentially, again, he just loses his mind, plain and simple. And he fantasizes to the point where he literally just mentally delves into that fantasy. He essentially begins to live in said delusion instead of actually coping with reality. Now, at a material level, he's there in the rainforest, surrounded by wreckage and debris and everything, and the dead bodies of his dead fellow passengers. But that's the one thing. But his mind, his astral body, has become so corrupt based on the event, because it had such a traumatic astral impact on him, a psychological impact, that he literally just completely, again, he creates this delusion, and he essentially astrally lives in that said delusion. His astral body becomes so corrupted that he loses touch with reality. He loses all touch with reality. So what's going to happen if you, for example, are going to say, hey, I'm going to delve into Paul's mind. It's been a month. I haven't seen Paul. Where the hell is he? If you delve into Paul's mind, okay, and you essentially follow my example, essentially, you mimic my technique, then if you're inexperienced, you're going to see Paul at home, drinking a cup of coffee, reading his little book, and eating his marshmallows. But we all know that that's not the case in given example. Now, you're going to say, oh, Paul's at home. Why the hell isn't he picking up? Why isn't he answering my calls? Why is there no response from him? No, you simply jump to conclusions, okay? You see why that happened. You essentially connected with Paul's astral body, and his astral body is involved in that event within its own little world, essentially. But that doesn't mean that Paul is actually materially in the material physical world. He's actually at home. No. Now, provided that you're adept at this technique or that you're proficient, things you need to be on the lookout for are what I like to call things that you need to be on the lookout for, or what I like to call impure thoughts. Okay, when delving into someone's mind and connecting with their high-end astral body, the way you'll be able to recognize a delusion or a thought or event or a memory or a situation that is not quote unquote legit or legitimate is by simply looking at the image, and you'll start to see simple things. From my own experience, for example, if an image is hazy, it has static around it or somewhere in it, then it's not a legitimate thought. If it has like round edges and whatnot, for example, people that play video games, you've seen Modern Warfare, etc., or similar. Not that I'm a gamer, but just as an example, usually when your character is like, his health is low, you see like you hear a heartbeat and you see that everything around the screen is like slightly red, indicating that your character is in mortal danger. If you see something like that, then it's also not a legitimate thought. It means that that thought essentially is influenced and comes from an external source, like for example magic or a spirit, some other external energetic force. If you see, for example, the person whose mind you dove into, you're viewing them and you're seeing that they all of a sudden change. For example, you looked at you were viewing them and they appear normally, and then all of a sudden they turn into, how should I put it? They go from, in a blink of an eye, they keep going intermittently back and forth, or they just go once or twice from standing up normally to being hunched over and looking injured. Then the thought is also compromised, and the latter, the negative thought essentially, or the negative way that they're represented in said image or in said viewing session, is what's actually happening to them, is the state they find themselves in. And the former image you had of you viewing, when you viewed them, of them simply standing tall, so to speak, normally, just well dressed and everything, is the way they envision themselves to be. That means that the person is essentially mentally afflicted and living in a delusion, at least partially, or in that moment, in the moment that you were viewing that person. What else? Let's see. If you also see that the image is hazy, it's like blurry, the same way that a camera sometimes loses focus and it has like a zoom in, zoom out effect. And usually when a camera lens zooms in or out, the way I'm recording myself right now, all of a sudden the image becomes blurry and it focuses more on what's in the foreground rather than the background. Then yeah, it's also compromised. Okay, it stands, generally speaking, for a potential thought that the person had. Let me see what else. And generally speaking, if the image is hazy, as in it's vague at certain moments, then yeah, it more refers to a desire, a deep-seated desire the person has. So deep that it affects the person's astral body substantially, but that doesn't mean that that's actually going on. One example is enough, okay? I know this from knowledge and first-hand experience, because I'm the one that came up with this technique after all, even if I say so myself, and I have extensive experience with it. How to, generally speaking, confirm for yourself that something is legit, other than if you wanted to do readings or whatnot. If you see that an image is clear, it's concrete, it's solid, then yeah, that speaks for itself, that the image is what you're seeing is legit, generally speaking. Again, when someone is mentally compromised, okay, emphasis laid on being mentally compromised or afflicted, you're going to experience difficulties if someone is compromised. For example, if someone uses heavy drugs like marijuana or similar, or cocaine or heroin, or the person is an alcoholic, you're going to experience issues when reading the person, because their astral body is completely corrupted, and you're going to see things either hazy. You're essentially going to see life from their perspective. And for example, with someone that shoots up heroin, things can literally move by at a fast pace, like freaking 1,000 meters an hour, 1 kilometer a second. Everything just goes by really fast, like it's forwarded, fast forwarded times 1,000. And what else? Let's see. You'll see that, for example, things are hazy and blurry. Buildings seem crooked, like they're hanging For example, if you see the person walking on the street, the entire image is like diagonally turned upside down, only halfway through, like at a 90-degree angle. Yeah, that also means that the person isn't right in the head. Okay, the person has serious issues. Whereas with someone that is of a sound mind and is, generally speaking, by society standards, mentally healthy, the person, you'll see that, hey, everything is clear. It's like real life. Everything seems concrete, solid. You can hear the inner peace in the person's mind, in their astral body. You know, you're not sensing turbulent emotions or things that are seriously plaguing or have befallen the person. Everything is clear. But even with someone that is mentally afflicted, you can navigate and you can see whatever you want to see, or you can extract whatever information you want to extract, including their physical whereabouts. But like I said, point one, there is no guarantee. The same way that there's no guarantee for anything. So you always need to say, hey, most likely the person is doing this or the person is doing that. Always use the phrase most likely and everything, honestly. Never be so cocksure of yourself that you're willing to bet your life on it, obviously. Like I said, there is no literal guarantee for anything in this world. God is the only one that can give you, literally. Father is the only one that can give you a literal guarantee. In any case, regarding delving into someone's mind, you... let me see if there's anything else I forgot. Something that I overlooked, maybe. Yeah, when you can, like I said, you can navigate and traverse someone's afflicted mind, even someone that is like a junkie or similar, someone who's seriously troubled or a mental patient, or someone who's outright psychotic. But you need to seriously focus on them. Okay, you need to be experienced, and experience only comes through trial and error. You need to simply keep everything I said in mind, not jump to conclusions, and then you'll be able to notice the subtle differences. Like I said, the devil lies in the details. All the stuff I mentioned earlier, haziness, etc., inconsistencies in what you're seeing, you'll only notice that subtly when you look at them long enough, when delving into their mind, and you take a look at your surroundings and environment, and you're seeing things from a third-person perspective, okay, or a second person's perspective, and the person is just going about their life or lives. Only then will you be able to make everything out. Only then will you be able to say, hey, something isn't right here. You know, I saw that the image was slightly hazy or similar. You also need to be able to differentiate and or distinguish between an image that is bona fide or information that is legitimate and is concrete, but because the person is not in a picture perfect state of mind, then you might see something minor that will make you think, hey, this isn't legit. An example that you don't get things confused. An example that I can give you is, for example, is that, for example, if I dove into someone's mind, a real-time example for someone, I'm obviously going to keep the person anonymous. I dove into the person's mind and I, for example, saw the car that the person was driving. It had a sign on when facing the car from the front, on the left rear side door or side window, on the side door, there was like a sticker there, and the sticker vanished after. I told the person the person was next to me while I was discussing matters with him, and I simply had my eyes closed. And speaking of eyes closed, just a sideline note is that you can also do this technique with your eyes open. But generally speaking, I close my eyes because, you know, I have a better overview. Everything plays in front of me like a movie. Whereas if you keep your eyes open, you have miscellaneous stuff that might, you've got miscellaneous shit that might distract you. And you don't need any distractions. But you can do it both with your eyes open and closed. Whatever or whichever works for you. I've done them both and it works just fine for me. The both of them. Not to mention the fact that sometimes when you close your eyes, if your mind is slightly distracted, then it might get mixed with what you're seeing. So you really need to be adept, and you need to be able to differentiate. You need to be able to set things aside and blah 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 blah. And in any case, as I was saying, so the person was sitting next to me, and I told him what I was seeing, and I was like, "Did your car used to have a sign on the back, like the when facing the car, the left door, okay, the left rear door, like the passenger door to the left?" He was like, "No." And generally speaking, I know what that means. That means that, for example, in his case, I told him that, hey, your car most likely back in the day used to have a sign before you owned it. Usually past memories will pop up that way. Let's just say things regarding the scenery that you're seeing. Because essentially I was viewing a situation because the person I'm referring to, he told me that he was beaten up by two guys. And I was like, okay, hold on, let me just briefly dive into your mind. Okay, show me the situation where he was beaten up by those two guys. And I saw everything, and I was like, yeah, that's what these guys look like, right? He was like, yeah, that's what they look like. I was like, these guys were big guys, right? Yeah, they were big guys. I was like, yeah, I'm seeing everything. And you were like in a garage-like environment. He was like, yeah, exactly. I was like, yeah. But then when I asked him, I was like, did your car used to have a sign on it? Are you sure? He was like, nah, never. And I knew that. It just vanished after like a minute or half a minute, a couple of seconds. I was like, yeah. That means, generally speaking, when you see something like that happen, it generally speaking means that that it's a thing of the past. What you're seeing is essentially a figment of the past. You're seeing essentially the history of the car, because when you're diving into someone's mind or delving into their mind, not only are you seeing it branches out through everything they came into contact with, and sometimes you'll get stuff that personally might not seem relevant to you, similar to astrology, but still, it's still good to know. And when you see something appear briefly and then disappear after a couple of seconds, that means that it's a figment of the past in general. Generally speaking, that's what it means. So his car, most likely, the guy I'm referring to, his car, the previous owner had a sign there, or the car once had a sign put there. Okay, something mentioned worthy. It's the same thing for people. So again, you need to be able to differentiate between desires and thoughts and everything, okay? Especially when you're reading people superficially. There's another technique I have called superficially doing this. I can delve into someone's mind, but I literally just briefly connect with them, like 2 seconds. I go like this. What's the person doing? Okay. And I get like an overview, but I don't immediately assume that it's fact, as in, oh yeah, baby, it's concrete. Nah. I know that I briefly tapped into the person's astral body, and even if I had tapped into them in detail, even then, there is no literal guarantee. There is never a literal guarantee, but you can be sure enough. Generally speaking, it is correct. Generally speaking, it's correct. Based on my own knowledge and experience, let's just say if you had to give a ballpark number in terms of percentage, I'd say 90% accurate, 95% accurate even. The only exceptions, the only time you run into trouble is if you read anything, whether it's reading them, picking up on someone's brainwave activity, whether it's delving into their mind in depth or in detail or superficially, everything that I mentioned, okay, everything that I'm presenting in this video. The only time you run into trouble is if you're dealing with someone that is mentally afflicted. So you're dealing with someone that is seriously mentally compromised, someone that's loosely put, not right in the head. Then you run into trouble. Okay, the same way that in the physical world, you would also run into trouble with someone like that. If you ask a junkie, hey, can you help me out by picking something up at the nearby supermarket? Don't expect the junkie to be reliable, because the guy's a junkie. The guy might take your money and run off with it. You'll never see him again. Even if you do see him again, the guy just didn't give a shit and he went to buy a blunt with your money. You name it. My point is, any kind of realistic reliability goes out the window. It's like a wild card. Okay, 50-50. Whereas a normal person, like if you ask someone like me, obviously, you're going to be like, no, Moreno is reliable. I mean, the chances of him not actually doing what I asked him to do are like less than 1%. Yeah, which is true. You can ask the average person, and generally speaking, you can rely on them. You can trust on them. I mean, you can confide in them. You can trust in them. But yeah, for the rest, there's nothing else to say. Again, I already denoted the differences between the two. And let's see. There was one last thing I was going to mention to close off this video. Oh yeah. This thing, needless to say, takes a tremendous toll on anybody. If you want to, again, this technique, I'm honestly the only one that can do this technique so expansively, because I came up with it, obviously, and I have the mental fortitude, to say the least, to do so. The average magician, nah, you can't do it. Not without your head hurting and immediately it takes a tremendous toll on your astral body, okay? To the point where you'll be a little tired after 1 or 2 attempts alone. Whereas, even a high-level magician, on a power level basis scale from 0 to 10, even only a magician with level 15 or 20 will be able to do it a couple of times and really in depth. Similar to me, not as much as me, but similar to me. But even a proficient magician will have serious trouble doing this, okay? But the last thing I was going to say is that if you adamantly insist on knowing what someone is doing physically in the material plane, you need to dig deep enough. My point is, only when you're like, okay, show me what the person is doing, and keep hammering on that. If you've excluded everything, you're like, okay, yeah, listen, these are thoughts, these are desires, etc. Okay, show me what the person is doing, and you're busy for like half an hour and you've really given it your all, then you can be fairly certain that the person is indeed doing what you're seeing that they're doing. The reason for this is the whole concept of mental, astral, physical, like I explained. Okay, I already explained also in the video called The Esoteric Collaboration on Mental Illness. People, generally speaking, the whole way that the Kabbalah points it out, okay, the Tree of Life, is that when you think about something, I mean, when something is going to happen, you generally speaking think about it first. You want to make a move in the material world, you think about doing it first. For example, me doing this with my arm, I thought about doing it first. It doesn't matter how minor or how minuscule the thought was. Mental, astral, physical. It comes from the divine, and then it reaches your astral body. Your astral body processes it, and then it materializes it, and it materializes in the physical world. Me doing this, that whole process, that's how the entire universe works. And you can view the whole road between the astral and the physical as an intersection. It's like when you're seeing a car at an intersection, you have no idea. If the car doesn't turn its blinker on, you have no idea where the car is going. The car can go to the left, to the right, it can go straight forward, it can go anywhere. Okay, with someone's, with a person, that is the same. Okay, with anything that you want to delve into, mind-wise, astrally speaking, the concept is the same. Just because a thought occurred in the person's mind, which you're seeing, a deep-seated thought, it doesn't matter whether it's superficial or the depth doesn't matter, or whether it's deep-seated, it doesn't matter whether it's deep-seated or not, okay? It doesn't have to explicitly materialize. Sometimes it just fades out. This simply incurs at possibilities. It's like I said, it's like me driving a car and you're looking at me adjacent the road, and there's an intersection. You have no idea where I can go. I can go to the left, to the right. Bottom line is that there are numerous possibilities, okay? Just because you see someone doing something, for example, you see them drinking a cup of coffee, doesn't literally mean that they're drinking a cup of coffee. It stands for the possibility. The person is seriously thinking about drinking a cup of coffee, I mean really seriously, but at the last moment the person can see off of it and nothing will come of it, and the astral energy that heaped itself up and that was going to materialize simply evaporates, and instead the person does something else, even if it was only a superficial thought compared to the deep-seated coffee drinking thought. So that's what you also need to keep in mind, okay? Like I said, nothing is ever 100% fully literally guaranteed. You can be as sure can be, and you'll be right 9 out of 10 times, and it's no different in this context. Like I said, I've read a dozen people, so to speak, or numerous people, and I know that generally speaking, what I saw them do, that's actually what they're doing, but it doesn't literally have to be the case. I know that on 1 or 2 occasions, these guys just thought about doing it, okay, or they're going to do it later, as in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, essentially a futuristic time lapse kind of deal, or it's something that they did in the past or similar. But generally speaking, you can be correct, okay, 9 out of 10 times, but 9.5 even out of 10 times. But there's always going to be that one time where that simply did not come to pass for highly complicated reasons that are not worth investigating, because it's impractical. Because if you have to do that for every single person, then yeah, you can see what time it is, okay? That's like you doing a maintenance checkup on your car every day and literally going through every little part in your car, literally every single thing, literally everything. Check AC, check spark plugs, pop the hood, everything. Now the average person can't be bothered with that. You only do that stuff once every blue moon, like once every half a year, or once a month, every quarter, every 3 months, 4 months. But it's impractical. That's like, that's like me coming home and then literally cleaning my house to the point where it's spotless every single day. No, nobody has time for that nonsense. That's exactly what I mean. See you guys later. Bye.